This is part one of the neck reset for the harmony. The second part actually shows pieces of the harmony taken apart and what I've done. So if you're a little bored here, you might want to skip on to the second video.
Hi, today's episode is a long overdue follow-up to the next steam out that I did a few years ago. It was on a harmony guitar, sort of one that I was going to practice with and learn how to do a neck reset. And as you can see from the clip before, it is back together and it does play and it sounds alright, but the neck reset isn't perfect. There's some flaws with this guitar, and of course I learned a lot while doing it. Anyway, I'm going to go over all the different parts of it that I've learned so far, and hopefully this will be helpful to others. So stay tuned, and of course if you like this video and or the others, please click subscribe. Thanks.
These harmony guitars were basically built in a way that was designed to fail. For some reason, the tops came with ladder bracing instead of X bracing. This is basically the worst design you could have. It does nothing to counteract the bellying of the top, if you will, and that leads to a need for a reset. You'll see that even after adjustment, it still moves, and the bracing really is the cause of the problem here. So to really fix it, you'd have to change the bracing as well. In the previous video where I did the neck removal, what I didn't show were the measurements that I had taken beforehand. I followed some formulas anyone can find online about neck resets, and I wound up measuring the amount to take off and cutting away at the heel. After reading a lot of articles and thinking pretty hard about it, I decided the smart thing to do was use a combination of the dovetail and the bolt. This way I could take it back out if it needed to be done again without having to steam and get rid of the glue. From my point of view, it makes no difference, glue or bolt, except that bolt's easier. Bob Taylor mentioned in one of his first repairs on an old Guild, he cut the dovetail off and actually put it into the receiving pocket. Then he just lined up the faces. So as a result, I went with the bolt on, but I did leave the tenon there just so that I had a way to line things up. So here's a nice little shot of the bolt and how it holds the neck on from inside. In this shot, you can actually see the tape that I used to mark off where I needed to cut back to. Of course, when I went to put it back together after trimming it back, I saw exactly how difficult it was going to be to work with the ladder bracing. As all of a sudden, without any tension on it, and it actually had been a few years without any tension on the wood, nothing seemed to fit right. My action was way too low. To compensate for that, I glued a very thin piece of maple in on the heel to try to get everything back into alignment. My expectation was that once again things would creep and the neck would go into a state where it needed to be reset. So having this piece here was easy to adjust with. After trial and error, I was able to get the action to a decent height, although slightly high for what I wanted. There are some imperfections in the way they built this neck, and I wanted to make sure things didn't fret out. Unfortunately, after a few days, everything started to move again on the wood, and you can see here the action all of a sudden has significantly changed. So more work needs to be done. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to show some details and specifics on how I did things, and you'll be able to also watch how I'm now going to do the next phase of the modification. Unfortunately, I wound up doing the whole adjustment without capturing it on film. So here's an example of a Yamaha neck that I pulled off. It has not been modified. There have been no cuts. It's pretty detailed. You can see the dovetail. There's chunk missing from it, but you also can see the areas that eventually get relieved. On this Yamaha, they haven't been relieved, and actually as a result, that section where you see a V that's past the dovetail on the bottom is a bit projected off the neck. Now I find it much easier, based on a lot of different things that I've done, to just relieve that area, and I'll show you on the new neck how I took a chisel and pulled that away, because really just the outer edges are what touch the guitar, and that's the only part that's really that important. The green arrow points to the cheek area that you'll have to adjust to meet up against the body, and the red arrow points to the parts that you can actually relieve with the chisel. These are just some more pictures here, a little bit more close up. You can see some of the glue spilled over, and also a chunk that came out when I tried to remove it via steam. It wasn't quite as easy as the other guitar. The other part that makes things complicated is actually getting this sliding dovetail in and touching the other wood. Because you've chewed away at it You'll eventually have to put shims on the outside, and just to show kind of the angle here, using my screwdriver to show. It's a little hard to see, but as I tilt the screwdriver, you can really start to see the compound angle. This makes things quite a bit messy, and you have a lot of different sides you have to line up if you plan to glue it back into the block. To avoid that hassle, it's why I actually convert it to a bolt-on style while leaving the dovetail. So thanks for watching. In the next video, we'll take the guitar apart, show how we actually get it back to a playable format. If you like this, remember to hit subscribe.